Gamers, gals, and my non-binary pals, if there's one thing we know, is that Yu-Gi-Tubers have terrible Yu-Gi-Oh opinions. I mean, just look at like any MBT tweet about the competitive integrity about the game. And of course, holding up that mantle is of course Pac himself. But the difference is, he actually tops events, even though sometimes he has questionable takes about the health of a format and what that should entail. But at least he actually puts up results. My goat. So we have Yu-Gi-Oh cards that'll get banned, Banlist prediction, and I want to see what Pac, you know, a person who no-lifed this format for like 30 hours on end, playing nothing but snake eye mirrors on a plane trip to Puerto Rico or wherever that YCS was held. I want to see what he has on his list. Let's give it a watch. But first, this video was brought to you guys by Imperium Duelist. Imperium makes some of the best Yu-Gi-Oh accessories and apparel, full stop. In fact, I religiously used their cherubim oversleeves for over a year at one point. And speaking of accessories, we've come together to create the hoppin' around playmat. You're all my little drama frogs, and I wanted to create a piece of art that is actually some form of usable merch. It comes in two colors, monochrome and hot pink, which is my favorite color by the way, and I am in love with how they turned out, both the single and two-player variants. Pick up a playmat, be sure to use my code Stevie10 on all products for their site for a 10% off discount, and be sure to tag us when yours comes in.
Yo, what's up guys? So today I wanted to kind of go over, I guess, my ban list prediction. It's gonna be less of a wish list because there's a lot of cards I wish would get banned, but today I kind of want to focus on what I think would be more likely to get hit, or unlimited, or all that good stuff. Let's kind of like talk about it. Shout out to my Twitch chat, twitch.tv/PaxTZG, if you guys haven't already checked that out, for helping me come up with some of these ideas. By the way guys, if you guys are enjoying the video, don't forget to go to TakeSwim.com and use Pac10 for 10% off the Supreme Pro store. Okay,
Sam, what am I getting my
playmats?
What am I getting my sponsor?
You know, limited release, as well as
can I get a 10% off code?
But let's talk first
like
about the Forbidden List. I think Jet Synchron is one of those cards that is probably gonna get banned. It's been banned before, and it might get banned again. It's just like one of those cards that is constantly getting hit for the sins of other cards. Mainly because I think they're gonna keep Original around, because I think they want the fire cards to be used as a supplementary engine for, like, you know, for fire archetypes. Whereas I don't think they intended the deck to be like a pure deck. So I think they're actually gonna hit Jet Synchron. It enabled some really sick synchro plays and really made the board have Omni Negates, and I think at the rate of the game that we're headed in, they want less Omni Negates to be out on the field. So I want to say Jet Synchron is gonna get banned.
I don't 100% agree with the idea that Konami saw people playing like Snake Eyes as like a pure deck. I think everyone and their mom kind of imagined that OSS was summoning any level 1 fire in any other deck. Like, let's be honest with ourselves regarding that. But I can see Jet Synchron being banned. I used to kind of clown on it and just be like, oh haha, what if we just banned Flameville Guard as well? And I do think that like OSS is the actual card that should be banned, because holy shit, that card is so broken. But there is like a 1% chance that people start playing like Flameville Guard as a way to get to the Omni Negate tuner lines, and although you can't make stuff like Borreload Savage into Barone like as easily, it does still kind of give the deck a way to make an Omni Negate, which I don't think is like the worst thing in the world. And also DFL Star pitch Jet Synchron, actual FTK. But yeah, I used to got a clown on it, but yeah, Jet Synchron needs to go.
The Forbidden List is gonna be Sanctifier. I don't think they should hit this card, but I think they will, just because it's a way to hit Branded. My thoughts were for Branded that they either touch Brand Diffusion or they touch Sanctifier. And I think when you look at like the root cause of like why like the Branded engine is so problematic, I think Sanctifier is one of those reasons, especially from a Floodgate perspective. But I do think that like if they hit Sanctifier, the deck is still very playable. It's still very broken. I think it's gonna probably be on the hit. Next is gonna be Calamity.
The main thing that Branded has done for like the past year, let's be honest with ourselves, it's literally just been Gimmick Puppet and Friends. Like, it's been Gimmick Puppet in the past, and right now it's Jowgen and Silent Force. Like, sure, you could pretend that we're summoning a Mirror Jade and we're sending like a guy, but like, let's be honest with ourselves. Albion is the actual reason why Branded feels so frustrating to play against, because Branded is a type of deck that creates boards that shouldn't exist. There shouldn't be a deck that has an in-engine way of just locking your opponent out of the game. Like, we've seen this shit in like VFD, we've seen it in like Utopic F-Zero. Like, these sort of decks, although they sort of see like relatively fringe meta play, except for VW, but that's its own problem. Like, they just create very unhealthy game states that just should not exist. And fuck this card. I hope it dies forever.
You don't really see like Centurion doing that much. Calamity is one of those things that will probably be hit just to like put an end to the tyranny, because I feel like this is a card that like randomly comes in and out of formats. Like people just be randomly making this, so I just put it here just because I feel like they've been on the trend of hitting floodgates. They banned Scythe not too long ago, so I feel like they're on the trend of like trying to ban more floods, limit more floods. So I think Calamity is gonna be on the chopping block as a result of that.
I don't know if Calamity will get banned. I could see them banning it. I'm not saying that like Calamity is a bad ban. I just don't think Calamity is the type of card that ever will get banned, if that makes sense. Just because the decks that make it historically are just so mediocre or bad. Like when you look at like Manadium or when you look at Centurion, these are like decks that either had way better game plans, like Manadium setting up like a 5 Omni negate board, or Centurion, which a deck is just so dialed into making hot red that you realize it couldn't really do anything else. And there doesn't really exist a deck that's able to make hot red alongside a bunch of other stuff extremely consistently. And that's like one of the reasons why I think that hot red, like, it's just one of those cards that's just too hard to summon in a deck that's actually going to be relevant. Like, do I think hot red is a fucking stupid ass cheesy card that deserves to get banned? Absolutely. But I don't think now is the time, if that makes sense.
And I think like Centurion, when you're not Calamity locking your opponent, can be a pretty cool mid-range strategy. So I think this will be like a good solid hit. Obviously we're in the year of the fire, so when we go to the limited section, you'll see that we have cards like, I think Snake Eye Ash will go to 1, but I don't think Bonfire, Wanted, Dealer Star, or Original will get hit at all. And the main reason for this is that I think they want you to play like those fire cards as an engine. Like they want you to like basically utilize them to turbo out into, I don't know, like Decatrons, or like they want you to turbo out into like the Ponixes. I think they want you to like turbo out into Hydrants or anything along those lines. So I think they'll actually hit Snake Eye Ash, but I think they'll keep all the other cards kind of like full power. But like they'll probably address some Fire King cards in some way. Like for example, they'll make like Kieran to 1. Another card I thought about was like another Dragon Ruler. I feel like they just randomly do this, so I put this on the prediction because they randomly be putting random Dragon Rulers to 1 every list. So I think title to 1 is like probably something that could easily happen. Obviously the original, like the Magic Spectre Kieran, I thought this card was gonna actually be on the latest ban list, like, you know, move to 1. I think they might use the time now to finally put it to 1, just so that like Magic Spectres can be like a playable strategy.
So I really like Pack's idea regarding like some fire hits. Like, let's be real, Konami's not gonna ban fire. Fire is probably still gonna be one of the best decks of the format, if not, you know, still be the best deck if these hits go through. It just makes it slightly less consistent and way less cheesy, because like, let's be real, Diavelstar Snash was like an actual FTK combo. You needed to open like 3 hand traps in order to stop a 2 card or like 2.5 card combo. It was like ridiculous. And Kieran, oh my god, the amount of cheese this card could do. Like Kieran pop Kieran affecting Grave, revive something else, Garunix pop Kieran. Oh my god, like this is such a frustrating card in like every aspect. The pop was non-targeting, it was a quick effect, it was just free damage. You could do this on your opponent's turn if you wanted to like Garunix them if you open like a Nutter Butter hand. It was so silly. And like titles, just like, who gives a shit?
Thought this card was gonna actually be on the latest ban list, like, you know, move to 1. I think they might use the time now to finally put it to 1, just so that like Magic Spectres can be like a playable strategy. Heavy Storm, I think they're on the trend
we don't need Heavy Storm back.
More back.
We don't need it back.
Start
I need
seeing
my
this
Rudix
in
cards to
OCG
stick
as
around.
well, where like they put heavy to 1. Man, they started like unlimiting
my
a
Rudix
lot
cards,
of
sad
like
face.
really old cards. Like Change Your Heart went to 1, Duster went to 1. I figured Storm is logically like the next card to be at 1. So I think heavy will be moving up. Kind of cool actually, because I think heavy to 1 could make Unchained a little bit more consistent. Funny enough, I think
Heavy Storm my own board.
Prosperity 1.
Wow.
I think this is a card that like I'm not sure if it will necessarily be a thing. This is definitely more of a wish list, but I feel like Pot is just like a insane card. It's played in Kashtira, it's played in Lab, it's played in like Rescue Ace. It's just a card that like, it's just so powerful. Like, be able to see the top 6 cards of your deck. Technically the top 12, right? When you go second, because you draw 6 cards and you activate Pot to see top 6. So like technically the top 12 cards of your deck. It's just like, in my opinion, too powerful. It's just too unbroken. So I'll put it to 1. Runic Fountain, I think that like, you know, we saw in the latest, the last ban list that like Runic didn't get hit at all. I think it's finally time where they maybe like address some of the Runic cards, whether it's going to be Fountain, whether it's going to be Tip. I'm not sure which, but I think Fountain going to 1 could be kind of nice because it makes like the runic stun deck a lot worse. The argument of like, oh, what if you just
Runic
ban
stun.
more floodgates?
Keep it
But
around.
they'll just find more other floodgates, I guess. Like, I think right now, like, I think Fountain to 1 seems like a way to like hit other runic strategies as well as like I think it was like overdue. Like, it was gonna happen sooner or later.
I've been hearing like one way to hit runic, and it's the idea of banning Hugin and keeping everything else around. Because let's be real, Hugin is so fucking absurd. That card does everything. The fact that it can protect mid-chain, the fact that it searches Fountain, the fact that it's not once per turn. Oh my god, this deck is so ridiculous. Hugin really does it all. And also, please don't ban Runic Fountain. I need this card for Runic Stun. It's all I have. If this card gets Cosmic Cyclone, I'm fucked.
This spell are like kind of like the flood of choice for a lot of like modern strategies. I feel like right now we're at a point in the game where everyone will side floodgates when they go first. It just seems to be the trajectory of like Yu-Gi-Oh. From their perspective, they don't want this to be a common theme. That's why they put rivalry to 1. There can only be to 1. All those other floods to 1. So I think like the next floods on the chopping block are gonna be like Summon Limit and Antispell because they were the most played flood at like YSS Costa Rica and YSS Vegas as well as YSS Sydney. So Summon Limit may be more likely than Anti. I do think those cards will go.
I think that the way Yu-Gi-Oh has progressed is kind of depressing, where people just kind of realized where combo decks have taken such a high trajectory into the fucking moon in terms of their power levels, especially like Snake Eye and Cheer Limit, those being the most 2 recent notable examples, where these decks are just so by far and away good at pushing through hand traps and hate or whatever, where people are just like, fuck it, we can't put in hand traps, we can't put in board breakers, we're just gonna side for going first and pray we draw the literal FTK card. And we're seeing like anti-spell, summon limit, like in tier limit they had there can be only 1. It was so ridiculous. It was just so silly. And I think that people's reliance on floodgates is symptoms of the cause that is a horribly balanced format, as well as like horribly designed cards where every card special summons and recycles itself and has like 50 lines of text that say like this card actually adds but actually summons a monster secretly, that also adds, that also specials a monster. It's so frustrating in every capacity to deal with. Like, Yu-Gi-Oh is no longer becoming a game about trying to outplay your opponent. It becomes a game where you're just racing to the bottom to see which player can draw the Saki floodgate first in games 2 and 3.
2, I know this seems like a random hit, but I think like they'll realize that Super Poly is like a really insane board breaker. They might move it to 2 just because of the fact that like Yubel's coming out with like more support. Super Poly is just in general like a really solid breaker all around, and the fact that it can't be responded to is like no surprise and like a no-brainer that it's like an absurd card. It makes like the Despia deck slightly worse because I know they played Super Poly as well, and it makes it so that people just, you know, like it's a really good breaker to hit pretty much, because I think every version of like breakers will always include Super Poly pretty much. There's so many targets right now in the game. Terratop to 3. I think for Goblin Riders it might just come back to 3. Maybe for like Virtual World it might go to 3. And they moved it to 2 in the last list, so like I don't see why it wouldn't go to 3 in like this current list. Pank to 3. I saw that they moved Pank to 2. It still wasn't really doing that much, so I think they might continue with the trend from the last list to now, which is to move Pank up another section and then just, you know, put it in unlimited. Shifter is a card that I still have at 3. I know a lot of people want Shifter to be hit, but like realistically I don't think they're gonna touch it.
Let's be real, Shifter's fine. Shifter is a card that can only be played in so specific of decks that, spoiler alerts, aren't even that good. Like, Shifter's only played in like Kashira, Flu, and Stun, and those 3 decks realistically are not gonna be metagame contenders. These are anti-meta decks, and they're anti-meta decks for a reason, because if these decks are ever actually meta relevant, they get fucking shit on. These are decks that actually do lose to like 1 to 2 hand traps. They actually do lose to like a single board breaker. They are extremely easy to side for. They're extremely easy to play against. Exo Sister sometimes, but that's also meta. Yeah, exactly. Like, same shit, different deck. Like, these are all decks that aren't good because of what these decks natively do. These decks are good because of the context of the format that exists right now. Like, Kashtira is really good because like Kashtira is somewhat playable because not a lot of people are playing hand traps and big bodies and Shifter. Flu Wonderies is seeing some sort of play for some godforsaken reason because NPen plus Shifter is basically an FTK. These decks are not natively good on their own. They are only natively good when the format allows them to be, such as people not not putting that many side deck cards that are anti-combo hand traps, because all those cards are already in the main deck. And let's be real, Flu already fucking loses those, so like just give them a fucking bone, you know?
Shifter is a card that like Konami doesn't really want to hit. Like it's been a problem for other formats as well. It's not the first format that Shifter has been an issue, so I don't see why they would choose to hit it now rather than like not before, right? So I think Shifter is still gonna be an issue. Another good card to talk about that I put in Unlimited is Flamber's Dragon. I thought this was a card that if I had a wish list, I would put Flamber's Dragon in the ban section, but
so
I
broken.
don't think they'll hit it. But I think Flamber's Dragon is a card that you can maybe argue for to be forbidden just because of how crazy it is. It's like a boss monster, an extender, it's an interruption. It's like kind of like everything you look for in a card, and it doesn't even suck to draw because like you can like pitch it off Nightmare Phoenix, for example, right?
It's so crazy how every single Snake Eye card was so fucking dog shit. Every single Snake Eye card was either so okay, so mid, or just didn't do anything on its own, because like where the fuck are you getting the extra card from? And then Poplar came out. The second Poplar basically just solved every single Snake Eye issue. Flamberge went from being one of the silliest, most unnecessary cards to ever exist to being one of the most insane combo extenders and boss monsters to ever fucking do it. Oh my god. Konami really fucking cooked with that.
Right, so Brand Diffusion was a card that I have at 3. I think when you have to decide between Sanctifier or Brand Diffusion getting hit, Brand Diffusion being at 3 is like honestly something that they'll probably be more likely to keep, just so that they make Branded still like a very strong deck. And limiting Sanctifier doesn't, like, if you just do the regular Branded combos and you end on like triple Mirror Jade with like Guardian Chimera and like all that stuff, you know, it's still like 5, 6, 7 interruptions, and a lot of decks haven't beat Mirror Jade. So I think Brand Diffusion to 3 will probably be still a thing. Engage to 3, I mean, we saw Engage go to 2. Engage to 3, especially with the new Stride Striker support coming out, could honestly be a realistic thing. They're printing out engaged QCRs and all that good stuff, so I actually think that like Engage to 3 is something that if it pops up on the next list, I wouldn't be surprised. I would actually be very like super not shocked at all. So I put 1 to the original Snake Eye Field Spell all at 3 because
all
I think that the whole intention of like, if you look at the new cards that are coming out, they're printing out Snake Eyes Deablestar. I think there's a new Witch coming out. It's very clear that they're gonna be coming out with like new ways to like utilize the Deablestar engine, and it's gonna be a mainstay staple in the metagame. I don't think they're gonna hit those cards at all. I personally want Wanted to be at 1, but I don't think they'll do it, weirdly enough. The Voices cards are next, like Low, School Guardian, Saphira. I think this deck is kind of like the Alistair of the format. It's kind of like the Invoke strategy like back in the day, and it will always be one of those decks that you can always go back to, kind of like Sword Soul, you know, like it's one of those decks you just like, you know, reference back. I don't think they'll ever touch Voices Voice, because I don't think Voices Voice is ever quote unquote the best deck. It's just a good deck, but I don't think it will ever be the best deck. It's just good. It's just solid.
I think that if you were to make a hit to Voiceless Voice, if there is one hit I would make to the deck, it might be Barrier to 1. And that's because Barrier is such an AIDS fucking card. Oh my god. Barrier is so heinous. Like, it's less a consistency hit and more of just like a way for this deck to not have literally infinite recursion. Nothing feels worse than breaking a VV's player's board and then just being like, haha, summon low, place another barrier. Good luck, idiot. And I'm just like, damn it. It just shuts down so many ways of interacting with the deck. Like, you can't target, you can't destroy, and even if you destroy it, they float with prayers. And it's just like, it's so silly. It's just such a frustrating card to deal with. I think barrier is just one of those cards that really pushes it over the edge in terms of what it does.
And that's kind of like where I think Voices Voice kind of stands in the meta. So I would expect it to kind of be still full power. Let me know your thoughts on the prediction, if you guys agree or disagree. Yeah, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks, guys.
Good video, good Banlist prediction pack, very poggers. Let me know what your guys' ideal Banlist hit is in the comment section down below. And a card maybe you think shouldn't be hit. I don't know, maybe you guys think Oak should be banned. Maybe you guys think Ash shouldn't be limited. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are in the comment section down below. But that's all for me. Good night, everyone.